So your Pokemon storage is always full and it's tough to manage. Well, today I'm going to break down how to never have storage problems ever again and some essential tips and tricks to manage your bag daily so it never gets too full. By the end of this video, you will never have storage issues again in Pokemon Go. Okay, before we jump into how to manage your storage, it's important to know how your storage works, in which there are different search queries you can search from more basic to advanced techniques to quickly filter out certain Pokemon and be able to organize much more efficiently. There are two ways you can search in Pokemon Go. First, in your search bar, where you can type different things like Shinies, where a certain type of Pokemon will come up based on the search query you entered. But there is also going to be in the search bar some preset ones here at the bottom with the recommended. You can even click see more and you'll have a whole list of all the different search queries you can search. You have the typings, the regions, the stars, even things like legendary that you can go ahead and use. These can then be combined with, for example, me having legendary here and adding shiny will now show me all the shiny legendaries. These search threads are powerful and they can be saved. So if I search shiny and 4-star, aka all my Shundos, I have 4 here in Pokemon Go. When I go ahead and back out from that, click the search button, my most recent search will be that. If you long hold, it will actually save it into your favorites tab here bottom, which I believe you can have 16 favorites at a time. And any of your favorites, you can long hold on them and you can give them a name. So I could put this search thread as Shundo, meaning anytime I want to quickly search my Shundos, I just come to my favorites, click Shundo, bang, I'm already in my Shundos. This is what we're going to be using today to maximize our storage. So here are a couple useful search threads to go ahead and save to help manage your storage more efficiently. The first one is going to be the PvP IV search thread with 0 to 1 attack and 3 to 4 HP and 3 to 4 defense. Now this search thread, what it's going to show you is Pokemon with low attack, high defense, high stamina, which if you don't know, in the Great League and the Ultra League are better IV sets to use than 100% IVs. I have a full video up here. You can go into depth on why that is, but this is going to be a great search thread to quickly filter out all the potential PvP IV Pokemon. Age 0 is another amazing search thread, throwing you any Pokemon you caught in the past 24 hours. You obviously have 4-star, most people know, will show you all your Hundos, and you can combine this as I did before to show you all your Shundos. 0 attack and 0 HP and 0 defense will show you all your Nundos, aka your 0 IV Pokemon in Pokemon Go. Some people like to collect them, some people don't, it's up to you. But you can save that search thread. And then probably my favorite search thread, the quick transfer search thread, which on a community day or a Go tour or Go Fest or whatever, if you search age 0 and 0-star, 1-star, 2-star, and exclamation point shiny, this will show you all the Pokemon you caught in the last 24 hours that are not a 3-star or 4-star and they're not shiny. Very good if you're on a comm day or whatever and you quickly want to go through some Pokemon you could potentially transfer without having to worry about transferring really good stuff. You can even do the long hold. I will say in this, there could still be some PvP IV Pokemon, some decent IV Shadow Pokemon, but usually this search thread is pretty useful to use on a day. Definitely recommend you favorite that one. I have a full video on search threads. I will link below if you want to check it out. And you can obviously come into the see more and it'll show you all the different things you can search, like can evolve. You can search Pokemon that you currently have enough candies to evolve. Location background is another amazing one, which will show you all the Pokemon you have that have a special location background. But this brings us into how we clear our storage. And how do I clear mine? Well, how I manage my storage in Pokemon Go is I'm first going to go ahead and tag all the Pokemon that are important for me to keep in the game, or tag or nickname. Some way I'm going to mark these Pokemon so I don't accidentally transfer them, and then I can go through all the Pokemon that I didn't tag and transfer those. Pretty much find out what's important to you, then transfer the rest. And this basis all starts with the first Pokemon that's important to me, and that's going to be sorting out my high IV Pokemon. Now, obviously, searching 4-star will show you all your Hundos, and you can sort by recents as well to show you all your most recent caught Hundos. I keep all my Hundos. I don't know why you transfer them. They are rare to get. But 98 and 96 IVs, almost Hundos, are still very powerful and might be considered for you to power up. So what you can do, and what I do, is I'll usually search 4 attack and 4 HP and 3-star. This will show me all the Pokemon I have that have 4 attack and 4 HP stats, and the other stat is a 3-star. So it's going to be pretty high. As you can see, these are all high IV Pokemon. I will then go through all these and I will tag them. Now, how I tag my Pokemon is I'll go .m and then the percentile. This is a 98 Necrozma, so 98. This Groudon, for example, is a 93, so I go .m93. The .m stands for Master League because I will use that Pokemon in the Master League. And I always say, no matter what Pokemon it is, even if it's a Charcadet, which I would never use in the Master League, I still go with the .m naming convention to keep it similar across the board. But then what you can do is you can simply search and switch out that stat from HP to defense, and this will now show me all the things with 15 attack, 15 defense, and then some other HP stat. You can then finally switch that out and you can go 4 HP and 4 defense to round it out with the third combo. But usually these are Pokemon that I won't keep as much because personally, I like to have a Pokemon with 15 attack, especially for the reason I'm keeping my high IV Pokemon, which is to power them up and use them in raids where the attack IV is the most important stat. So it's gonna be up to you whether you wanna keep these Pokemon or not, but I don't keep as many 98s. I guess the only 98s I really keep are gonna be rare ones that I might wanna consider silver bottle capping in the future. Once you've tagged those Pokemon, you can also just search 3-star if you want to go and double check that you didn't miss any high IV Pokemon. But these types of Pokemon, personally, I will transfer. Now it depends on what level of account you have and how important these Pokemon are. But I do think patience in Pokemon Go pays off, and saving a resource to power up a really high IV Pokemon versus jumping the gun for something like this usually pays off. But I also will mention that IVs really don't make a huge difference at all. It's more just a visual thing. For someone with OCD like me and like to power up the strongest thing, you most likely won't be powering something up like this. But I will say this Sinistea versus a Hundo Sinistea will be very, very similar in terms of power, unless you're playing at the highest level. The final thing I will also say is when I search .m and I sort by number, you can then come through here and see if you have any duplicates. For example, I have 2 Shadow Bidoofs here. One is a 89 IV percent, one's a 91. Am I ever gonna power up both of these? Probably not. This is actually kind of insane though. I think I just messed this up because these are the exact same IV Pokemon. So I messed up the text, but the point is, do I need 2 Shadow Bidoofs of the same IV? Not really. I'm gonna keep these because these are technically purifiable Hundos, but you can come through here and you can see, hey, do I have any duplicate like 98s? And I'm only gonna ever power one up, transfer the other one. The number one rule to consider when we're going through this whole video is, are you ever gonna power that Pokemon up, or is it important to you? And if you can't answer yes to one of those 2 questions, transfer it. Okay, the next step is gonna bring back that PvP IV search thread we used earlier. 0 to 1 attack, 3 to 4 HP, 3 to 4 defense. If you're not in PvP, you can completely ignore this, but the next step here is gonna be going through all your most recently caught Pokemon and seeing which ones are good for PvP. Now, normally I use an app like Poké which can quickly scan IVs on Android and tell me how good of a PvP IV Pokemon is this. And I'll use, again, the percentile. What highest percentile is it? Is it rank 1, aka 100%? Or is it a rank 50, which is like the 99th percentile? Point is, you go through these Pokemon and you mark them down. I can't do this because I can't screen record and use Poké at the same time because it uses the same permissions. But for example, I have a bunch of Pokemon here, like some good PvP IV Applins, Archons. Another option you can do is to go on an app like PvPIVs.com and compare the IVs for certain Pokemon. But this is only going to be if you're into PvP. This is a little bit of a tedious step, so if you're not huge into PvP, consider just skipping it. And also do note, a lot of people always ask me, hey, do you keep Pokemon for PvP that are not currently good? For example, I don't know, this Wurmple, you know, Beautifly isn't amazing in Pokemon Go right now. But again, if Pokemon gets move update, it could get good. So I have the space, so I keep it. But for the vast majority of people, I feel like if you're limited on space, if a Pokemon is not good in PvP right now, consider just transferring it if you need the space, because you don't have the luxury of just keeping, like, for example, I have 2 Sandyghasts here in case Palossand ever becomes goated in PvP. I think it's actually decent right now, but still. Point is, consider your account, how much space you have, and if you have the space to keep extra PvP IV Pokemon for Pokemon that aren't meta relevant, keep them, but if not, I would consider transferring them. Also depends how big into PvP are you. So those Pokemon have been marked. Again, I go with the same naming convention, .U for Ultra League, .G for Great League, and then the percentile of the PvP IV. So if it's a rank 1, it would be 100, but if it's a rank 50, it would probably drop in the 90th percentile. Remember, there was about 4,098 IV combinations in total. So where does that PvP IV combination lie among those 4,000? Which an app like PvPIVs.com will tell you, and Poké as well. But the next is going to be sorting out your special Pokemon. The first one is Shadow. Usually I'm going to do the same thing as before, but I will just manually go through my Shadow Pokemon because I don't catch too many Shadows. So I can very simply just go through them and be like, oh, this is a good IV one. So I will mark this .M and then check the IVs. It's a 93. I'll mark that. This is a Shiny, so I'll just keep the Shinies. This is a .M80. So I can pretty manually see that, like, hey, it's not a good bag and I'll probably never power that up. This Ralts is not that good. Wobbuffet, not that good. Cacnea, not that good. So all of these can just simply be transferred. You can do the same thing here with your Dynamax Pokemon. You can do the same thing here with your Gigantamax Pokemon. And the point is here is you're just trying to go through these special clause Pokemon and mark down the ones you might want to keep. A very good way as well, if you're unsure if you want to keep a Pokemon or not, is to just simply give it a star, because you can just never transfer it if you give it a star. But yeah, go through all of those search. Oh, and I guess costume as well. But me, I just transfer all my costumes unless they're shiny, because I can trade them away. Shinies you don't have to worry about, I will also say here, because you can't actually long hold and transfer shiny Pokemon. It doesn't allow you. You have to manually transfer them. So I'm never too worried about accidentally transferring a shiny unless you come in here, click the transfer button. If it's a shiny you really care about, I would again give it a star, because then you can't accidentally transfer it. You'll then do the same thing here with legendary Pokemon. Go through your legendaries, which you might have already done by using those search threads we used earlier. That can show you your top highest IV Pokemon, which your legendaries would be included. Same thing goes with your mythical Pokemon. You want to go through those. Generally, you don't have a lot of these, but when a Pokemon like Darkrai or Genesect comes back, you might have done a bunch of raids for it. You also have Ultra Beast. You want to go ahead and go through. I've just recently looked through my storage, so it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, go through your Ultra Beast, see if there's any of these that are good IVs that you'd ever power up. If not, you can just transfer them on the spot. You also have your background Pokemon, aka Pokemon with a special background. Now, these Pokemon and other Pokemon too all go into one tag I've created over here in my tag section called Trade Bait. These are rarer Pokemon that people might want, including special backgrounds, including things like Mudbray, which is hard to get only at in-person events. It includes special costume Furfroos I form change around the world. It includes rarer Pokemon like a Salazzle, which is hard to get because it's a 13%. We have special rare costume Pokemon, cool backgrounds like this London background Yveltal, and for example, my 400 candy antique Sinistea. I like to have this tag with a bunch of Pokemon just in case I run into a trainer who's like, hey, I don't have a G Max background Machamp. I would never power this up. The IVs aren't very good, but maybe somebody wants it from a trade. And same thing goes with a lot of these background Pokemon, all this stuff, which could end up being useful for a trade down the line for somebody who just might want one. Obviously, if you don't have space for that, don't do it, but still, these Pokemon are great to keep. I also will mention another tag I have is my Gems tag, which I highly actually recommend making before you even start this video, which includes your rare valuable Pokemon for you. For example, it has this one of Wash Rotom from my first ever Go Fest I played, my Shundo Sableye. We have my 200k Shiny Swellow I caught during my 200,000th live stream. We have my level 50 Mewtwo I got from hitting level 50, and all sorts of other rare Pokemon. Like for example, my Pikachu Libre I got from hitting Legend for the first and only time ever. Highly recommend you have a Gems tag. I also love my Shiny Eevee. This is becoming a flex, but Shiny Vancouver City Safari Eevee. I love this. Shout out Canada. Point is, make this tag and tag your gems in it. Now, a huge conversation I always get is people ask me, should you keep your extra, extra small and extra, extra large Pokemon? Now, XXL I think is much, much more worth keeping because these Pokemon are the ones that can be used in Showcase to win. And if you have the space, keeping extra, extra large Pokemon never hurt. Keeping your biggest size of each Pokemon. Now, personally, I don't do it unless the Pokemon's like a Nundo, a Shiny, or a Hundo or something like that, as you can see here. But I understand why people do it, especially if you're trying to win Showcases. But I do think it is something you can only do if you have the luxury to do it and you have a lot of space. If not, I would just transfer them and then catch the extra, extra larges during the events themselves when that Pokemon is spawning, then put it into a showcase. On the other hand, extra, extra smalls have been never really useful in Pokemon Go. They're not able to be used in showcases. Maybe in the future they could be, but I don't think it's really worth hoarding on to extra, extra small Pokemon unless you really have the space and you love collecting them, as we don't know if we'll ever really have a use for these Pokemon. And that brings us to Shiny Pokemon, which is one of the biggest space takers in Pokemon Go. When you play community days, you might end up with a lot of shiny Pokemon. I've been playing Pokemon Go consistently for 6 years, and I have almost 2,000 shiny Pokemon in my account currently. So I actually highly recommend you actually transfer these Pokemon in Pokemon Go if you ever end up with too much. But there's a couple different ways you can look at it. Number one, you can go through your storage here and you can be like, oh, you know what? Look how many shiny Sneasels I have. Do I need this many shiny Sneasels? Will I ever trade all of these away? Will I ever power all of these up? No, so consider purging a couple of them. Usually I like to keep 3 shiny Pokemon of each, depending on the rarity of the Pokemon. But for example, Shuckle here, I only have 3 of them. I have 4 Quillfishes, but I could get one of these, no problem. Like I'm not really gonna use this at all. So usually that's a good way to go. It depends on if the Pokemon has an evolution as well, and depends if you're trying to complete a living shiny dex, which is something I am working on currently at the moment, where I have 1 of each shiny in the game. Consider transferring from shinies, especially the community days when you play and you catch 25 of the same Pokemon. you only really need 6 of those. There's a couple ways you can look at transferring Pokemon. Number 1, you could just transfer them for candy. Number 2, you could trade them away. It never hurts to hoard onto Community Day shiny Pokemon, so you can then just randomly special trade every day with a friend, because there's a random chance that a Pokemon could go lucky, which luckies have a really high IV floor, and there's a 1 in 64 chance that it's a hundo. So there's a 1 in 64 chance when a random trade goes lucky that you get a shundo. So it's good to save those Pokemon and just randomly trade them. The second option is to send them to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, or even to Pokemon Home. Most Pokemon Go players maybe have Pokemon Home, which is a big Pokemon Pokedex where you can send your Pokemon into that and then send it to the other Pokemon games. But do note, once you send a Pokemon out of Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home, it can never go back in. But if you have too many shiny Pokemon and you want to just collect these Pokemon to maybe put into your other Pokemon games you play, like Pokemon Legends ZA, Scarlet and Violet, or whatever future Pokemon games might come out, consider sending Pokemon to Pokemon Home. Now, the free plan will only give you 30 slots, I believe, in Pokemon Home, so you might have to pay to upgrade your space. So there's only so many Pokemon you can send, and it does cost a lot of energy to send a shiny. I believe you can only send like 1 or 2 a week, but still, that is something to consider. Actually, wait, you can send 5 shiny Pokemon a week, it says here, or 1 mythical/legendary a week. But anyway, you can send those Pokemon to Pokemon Home if you want to bring them into the other Pokemon games. So once you've gone through all of that, once you've gone through your shinies and transfer them, your shadows, your Dynamax, your backgrounds, your Ultra Beasts, your legendaries, all that stuff, and you've marked all of your high IV Pokemon, your PvP IV Pokemon, your hundos, and your nundos if you want to keep them, I guess also your costumes, I then have a search thread I want to share with you, which is going to be not dot, because as you know, we put a dot in front of all of our Pokemon here, .g, that's why I put a dot. You have .u, you have .m. So by putting an exclamation point dot, it removes all those Pokemon we marked earlier. You can then go not shiny, you can then go not 4-star, you can then go not, and then I use this for my nundos. It's like a circle that's like empty. That's what I put in front of my nundo Pokemon, but whatever search thread you use to mark a nundo. You can then go not and not legendary and not mythical, because we manually looked at those, and not ultra beasts, and not costume, and not trade bait, as I went with that tag I made earlier, and not gems, because I tagged them as gems, and not Dynamax, and not shadow, and not traded is another thing I forgot to mention. Any Pokemon that you receive from a trade, you can just simply remove with the traded search thread. Nonetheless, what this will do is going to show me all the Pokemon that are really not important to me in Pokemon Go, that are not important to my storage, that I haven't manually gone through, that are not good IVs at all, and I can transfer them. Now, what I do from this point personally, because I like to trade, is I'll go through all these Pokemon and what Pokemon do I want to trade away for more candies. So I've gone ahead and tagged a lot of Pokemon in the search thread. For example, all of these Scatterbugs in a tag called trade. So I can go and not trade, and it'll remove all those Pokemon I've tagged for trade. But then at this point, now all these 891 Pokemon are up for transfer. I don't really need them. Obviously, I can go through here, and I think most of these Sinisties I might trade for candies potentially, or to try to get a hundo, or something like, for example, this Dreepy and this Charcadet, I can just simply tag into the trade tag and it'll remove them from that search thread. But I can just simply go here, click the select all, and transfer all. Now, when do you want to transfer these Pokemon? Well, there is a more optimal strategy to transferring Pokemon, in which you should only really transfer Pokemon during a 2x transfer candy event. Usually there's 1 spotlight hour every single month from 6 to 7 p.m., which has 2x transfer candy. The one that's coming up is actually going to be on Tuesday, November 4th from 6 to 7 p.m. It's Weedle Spotlight Hour. So this is a great time for you to watch this video. Go ahead and mark all these Pokemon. If you don't want to transfer them yet, you can actually just select all, create a tag, and then tag all these Pokemon in something called transfer. So when Spotlight Hour does come, you can go into your tag and transfer all of these Pokemon for 2 candies instead of 1. But obviously, transferring Pokemon is not always perfect timing, and there won't always be a 2x transfer candy event coming up. So consider going ahead and transferring Pokemon whenever you can for the candies, because clearing your storage and having space to catch Pokemon is much more important than getting 2 candies instead of 1. If you're limited on space as well, so you can't really do this, tagging like your rare Pokemon you want more candies for example, legendaries, pseudo legendaries, all that stuff might be more along your lines instead of having to keep every Pokemon to get 2 candies instead of 1. Nonetheless, guys, that is how I manage my storage, and I hope that helped you guys manage your storage in Pokemon Go. The key really is to just do it once a week. If you let your storage get out of control, it just gets too much to manage. So going through all these search threads I went through and using these search threads actively as you're playing is the best way to manage your storage. storage in Pokemon Go. So watch the other two videos on the screen if you want to learn more about this topic, and good luck clearing your storage for the wild area coming up soon. Follow for more tips. Peace.